So All My Relations Collective is a group of artists who came together to work in a shared set of values, and we are all interdisciplinary, and we work in many different mediums, primarily in live performance, and we do very community-centered work.
So the story evolves around courage and love and togetherness and family. And as a writer, these are some themes that I often write about, including chosen family, because I think it's really important that we are, all together gathered around Jiman.
My understanding originally came from Ty DeFoe. He's the solo performer in this. And there's this idea of a journey of a person who's looking at the world, wondering what their place in it. How is it that they fit in relationship to not just the world itself, but their family, to the things that are around us. And I think most of us as human beings go through those moments of questioning. Where do I come from? What is the meaning and why am I here? Where am I going? What is my purpose? All of those things occur to us at different times in our life, especially so when we're younger and just beginning to figure out who we are in relationship to who all these other people are that have demands and want us to learn or to be in a certain way. And it's oftentimes there's some voice inside of you at moments of your life that wonders, is there more? And that wondering can take us to really interesting places.
I met folks at the Great Lakes Lifeways Institute building a Jiman at one of the stops, as I do as an artist, and all of a sudden blood memory, ancestral memory started to come back to me as I started building and remembering that my family, the DeFoes in Northern Territory, also built Jiman. And so it was sort of a reoccurring theme that kept coming up, including water, and also including really thinking about mental health awareness with youth and for families, and how can we engage and begin a dialogue through story, through talking to each other, to feeling each other. And so that sort of became the heart of the story, the heartbeat of the story.
So we have a big team. It might just be like one person on stage, Ty, and like all of the characters that he brings to life. But there are so many human beings that go into doing that work, from the creative producers, but also we have folks backstage, we have the folks in the booth that are like pressing the buttons and such, but we have all of the designers. And then we also have the folks from the Great Lakes Lifeways Institute, who we've been collaborating with for a very long time, and they dreamed up our sort of reverse engineered Jiman, Wigwasi Jiman, as well as the birch bark mask, and as well as the turtle shell for Grandma Turtle Activist.
So when our audiences come to see it and they're sitting in the theater, they're gonna see a reverse engineered Jiman, because it's a skeleton canoe, and it's a canoe that has been under the water for hundreds and hundreds of years that gets revived. So it's really exciting as watching some of youth recognize some of the symbols that we're trying to get out there. You'll see the kingfisher, a bird that's often seen along the rivers, have a miniature roach on its head that one might see at a powwow or celebration. So it's a little miniature roach on top of the head to really give the effect of like a punk rocker, that this bird has been there and is really protesting for life.
I feel like there's a lot of moments where projection, lighting, sound, and Ty, there's a couple moments in the show that really gives me goosebump moments, because you see all the elements well blended together and you'd be like, wow, this is happening, and it truly feels like magic, in my opinion.
We are not prescriptive in how we work. We all have a lot of experience coming from different backgrounds, and we're all working artists. I'm also an educator, so we're bringing a lot of different parts of ourselves to this space. We are also functioning as creative producers, and one of the reasons that we're doing that is because we want to make sure all of the decisions and the process are aligned with our values.
All My Relations Collective is a collective of individuals that are dedicated towards narrative justice and storytelling. And I feel like it's so important to work with groups of people. One of our Anishinaabe teachings, not one person knows everything, but together we know a lot. And I really do feel that way when working in collective. Someone's holding down the design of the piece as we're putting it on stage. Someone else is holding down story. Someone's holding down community relations. Another person is holding what it might sound and look like, including being very thoughtful with some of the materials we're using as people. The clothing that I'm wearing on the stage, down to the shoes, to the socks, to some of the earrings, to the denim that I'm wearing, is all inclusive of Native people. So working with the collective, it's like having several brains.
This is the first time I did a children's show, which as an adult, I hear a lot of stories when I was a kid, and then now doing this production and seeing like a similar story again gives me a very different perspective. And there's a lot of things to think, and I feel like it's, although it's a child show, it's not just for children.
Long ago there was a Jimon. I am made from birch bark and willow too.
Something I find particularly wonderful about working with All My Relations Collective is that we don't really privilege one form of expression over any other. In a lot of different spaces, the written word is sort of king, but for us who are many different interdisciplinary artists that are working in different ways, the words and the story are at the same level of artistic value as the lights and the costumes and the visual effects that are happening and the movement and the intention that's coming through. And with Skeleton Canoe, it goes so deep because the materials have a complete life of themselves and they sort of lead where the story is going. With the wigwasi, the birch bark, that's the primary character and the inspiration and the relationship with the water. So that was sort of the seed of Skeleton Canoe. And then Nabin came from there, and the relationship between Nabin and Jimon brings us through this story that brings us back to community and back to home.
By bringing together many forms of expression, this collective shows how storytelling can open space for dialogue, healing, and understanding with Native and non-Native youth, adults, and elders. Their work reminds us that no single voice carries a story alone, and that when creativity is shared, it can help guide us back to community and connection.